it's Grace from the CAC, and we're back for another episode of Hashtag Finance. I'm so excited to be back on the podcast. I was away for a couple weeks. I went to Vancouver. We did an esports event, which you all can check out on our YouTube channel. We're really excited about it. Great attendance rate. Today is a really special day because not only do we have Emma Andrews here from BevCanna, and we also have a new media wall going up in our office. So right now, it literally looks like Times Square, like right beside my desk. Yeah. So Emma, how are you today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. Yeah, and you were just on the West Coast. I've come from the West Coast, so we're bringing the love.
Yeah, exactly. And so can you tell our viewers just a little bit more about kind of like your role at BevCanna?
I'm the Chief Commercialization Officer, which I honestly think is one of the funnest jobs at the company. I get to specialize in everything from formulation and product development and vetting the technology we use for our infused beverages, and then all the way through to our go-to-market strategy as well, which is, bringing the brands to life.
Sorry, I should have asked you before that. What is BevCanna?
Let's start there. Totally. Introductions. Yeah. We make, manufacture, brand, and distribute infused beverages.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. So what does that mean? Infused with what?
Cannabinoids. So THC and CBD obviously being two of the most well-known cannabinoids, but we'll explore different territories in the future.
Oh, awesome. And so how does that work exactly? So like people are just going to kind of walk around like drinking what I want to call weed water, but that's not obviously the correct term.
Yeah, that would be our crude version of it. Yeah. Well, essentially in October of 2019, Canada will legalize infused products, which will be the beverage category. So we're very excited to work towards that milestone. There are infused beverages in the US right now, and what I often find is those beverages are really crude and early versions of some of the more refined and premium products that we'll see here in Canada. And that's just because of farther advancements in processing technology. That's what's used to extract the cannabinoids, and then we infuse those into our beverages. So the goal is to make it not taste like weed water, to make it taste like the flavor profiles or the types of products you're trying to mimic, like an iced tea as an example.
Oh, wow. And so what was I'm just trying to wrap my head around this because I'm like, I guess it would be kind of like people just drinking alcohol, but like it's just...
Totally. But alcohol is one version, I think. I think with cannabis too, there'll be people who are looking for more functional beverages, who are looking for something to unwind and relax at the end of the day, something that could help them, feel calm and at ease through the day. So not just your social drinking occasion type of beverages, but also something that really has an outcome that you're seeking.
That's awesome. Yeah. I really love this concept.
Yeah.
I mean, it almost seems like I was going through the Bay the other day and there's like this soda water making machine.
Yes.
So it's almost like you could kind of do that.
Yeah. There will be concentrates and shots that you could add at home. So exactly that. I have a soda stream on my countertop too. So you could add a flavor infusion that's got some cannabinoids into it at home. But the category actually that we'll be starting to play in is the ready to drink category. So you'll just, you'll open and sip right away. You won't have to do any extra blending or infusing at home.
That is awesome. Yeah. So where will we see BevCanna products being sold?
The intention would be nationwide. Yeah, we're starting to talk to the provincial distributors. They're starting to do product calls for the infused category, knowing that it's coming online very, very soon. So we're approaching a number of provinces based on what makes strategic sense, based on our supply, based on the consumer base, based on the market size. So as you're probably familiar, in Canada, each province has a different regulatory approach to retail. So it's really a lot of individual conversations rather than one national scope that we're approaching in terms of distribution.
Great. And is there any kind of long-term goals to be like acquired by Coca-Cola or something? Or do you kind of just want to stay as your own brand?
Right now, we have a long-term vision to be a legacy company in this industry and to really establish our own name and credibility. The Coca-Cola model, I think, is an interesting parallel because they've done a really great job of creating an iconic brand, a really iconic form factor. The Coke bottle, especially the glass bottle, is so unique and memorable worldwide. So taking a page out of that book, we hope to have global brands in the future as legalization expands, and to really make sure that both the house brands we produce, but also brands for our white label clients are that iconic in the infused beverage space.
Amazing. And so what do you see BevCanna what is their image that you want to get across to consumers?
But basically the BC story, I think, is really intrinsic and really authentic to who we are as a company. Our bottling operation is based near a Soyuz, BC. So if you've been to the Okanagan, you'll know just in terms of the wineries and vineyards in the region, it's an absolutely magnificent region for cultivation. So we actually received our hemp cultivation license recently. So that's on site where the bottling plant is. We'll be doing our own biomass growing for hemp, which will be extracted for CBD. And that will be infused into our bottles and beverages on site at the bottling plant. So we've got a really great BC anchored story in terms of the operation, in terms of the biomass we'll use, and also a spring water aquifer that's on site as well too.
So that is very cool.
Yeah, really
nice.
A West Coast anchored identity.
Cool.
Yeah,
cool. Like that.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about your role. Like how did you get involved with that BevCanna?
Yeah,
cool.
I'm actually trained as a nutritionist. So my background is in the natural products industry. And I actually started working with a couple of the brands that are currently distributed in the natural channel that are bottled out of the same facility that will now convert into the BevCanna operation. So I've known the founders, and it's a family-run business. I've known them for a number of years now, working on other brands. And then when the idea came around to initiate BevCanna and really jump into the infused product landscape, I knew that was exactly where I wanted to pivot my career as well. I've been a cannabis enthusiast and advocate for a number of years now, and so it was really exciting to get to combine that personal passion with professional expertise.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And why cannabis? Why are you a cannabis enthusiast? And I find this interesting because you've got the holistic nutrition background, and I saw actually that you have a certificate in holistic nutrition culinary arts.
Oh my gosh, you went deep. I love it. Yeah, I've trained in everything from plant-based culinary to holistic nutrition, and then also product development as well. So combining all of those has been
awesome.
Actually quite meaningful. But I view cannabis as many things. It's an adaptogenic plant first and foremost, so it has wide-ranging applications. But for me, my journey has been everything from true recreational consumption through to therapeutic consumption, and that's not a category that currently exists in Canada. It's either medical or recreational, but so many consumers are having therapeutic-based experiences through cannabis, and so I think there's
therapeutic.
Oh yeah, I'm glad
what
you.
is that?
I'm glad you unpack it. So, and I have to, give a caveat before I launch into this, just that there is some promotional prohibitions in Canada around making health and wellness claims or associating cannabis to vitality. So in terms of any brands that you encounter, this isn't a message you would commonly hear, but in terms of a consumption experience as a consumer myself, it's things like reducing your anxiety, benefiting your sleep, helping your pain threshold. For me, I really noticed this actually as an endurance runner. I really noticed this in combination with marathon training. And that's when it really clicked for me. It's not just a recreational social substance, that it can actually be used in a therapeutic way to help your performance, to help reduce general stress in your life. And again, that's something that people are having unique and authentic experiences with, whether a brand can make those claims or not.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
How does that induce performance, though?
I know. There's a lot of stigma, I would say, around athletics and cannabis consumption, so I'm happy to bust those stigmas. During training, you have a lot of inflammation in your body, a lot of pain that's built up over long distance running, especially. So I find when I consume cannabis in relation to those long distance runs that I just have a dissociative effect from the pain, meaning that it doesn't, you don't linger on the sensation as long. You're able to get lost in the motion and not fixate on pain as a sensation. I find I sleep better at night after a long run. And I find generally performance anxiety tends to build before a big marathon. You've been training for a long time, you get really anxious about it. So just helping to reduce some of that stress and go into it in a really level-headed and calm way.
Hold that thought, we'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the heart of Toronto's financial district at the top of First Canadian Place, CSE TV is your trusted source for what's happening in capital markets. Our #Finance podcast series gets you exclusive long-form interview content with visionary entrepreneurs and CEOs of companies in the news. The CSE's On the Street segments get you up close and personal with many of our listed companies. And don't forget that you can find the video version of this and all our media on our CSE TV channel on YouTube. For instant notifications, subscribe to CSE TV now.
Hey, we're back with Emma Andrews from BevCanna. I saw also that you worked at Vega.
I did.
And so one of the things that I kind of wanted to ask you was how, like, you kind of were part of the instructional part where you were talking about plant-based food.
Yeah.
And, you know, kind of teaching the general society about, like, what plant-based food is.
Yeah.
What are you seeing now with plant-based food? And specifically the burger, what is it called?
So funny, the Beyond Meat burger.
Yeah.
It's so funny you mentioned this because I forget if it
Is
was
it
a commercial
plastic?
this morning. They were saying something, I think it was a commercial from A&W, and they were just saying something about it being plant-based, and literally the thoughts that crossed my mind is, wouldn't it have been interesting if Vega or another company had have trademarked that term back in the day, you know, 10 plus years ago when that category was just being created, and plant-based was a way to kind of navigate away from the word vegan that had a lot of stigma and negative connotations as being, you know, a bit too extreme. So plant-based was more approachable.
Interesting.
But that burger actually it's, as much as I have had some indulgences with it, I feel we have to remember that it's still fast food, right? It's not eating whole foods, which is the true essence of eating a plant-based diet, is eating plants in their natural form. So I'm all for it if it helps people transition. But it's taking away from the essence of the whole food base, which is really what plant-based eating is supposed to be about.
Right.
Yeah.
And so does plant-based eating look like?
For me, this is eating in as close to the natural format of the food as possible, so as least processed. At Vega, we used to call it minimally processed as well. So even though you're taking, you know, in that example, the Vega example, it's a nutritional shake, but things aren't overcooked or denatured, as an example, the ingredients that are in that product. So as close to their whole food format as possible.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I really like that because, that's very interesting that plant-based would, you know, bring a different connotation to vegan because vegan people are like, oh, you're vegan, that's extreme, you shouldn't do that.
The analogy, and I'm super glad we actually brought this up because it's something I'm really passionate about, making the analogy within cannabis as well. And believe it or not, I will bring it back to cannabis, but I think about it in terms of our consumption of extracts. So if we have the whole flower, it's the same as eating a whole food. So the more we process and refine that flour, the more we're getting into the same equivalency with foods. Like a Beyond Meat burger is the processed and refined version.
Right.
So there is quality that you can unpack when you start to understand what does processing mean and how do you maintain quality within a processed food or within processed cannabis. So I think there's a lot of analogies between our food system and the cannabis supply chain as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I also saw that you lived in like Japan. And
I did.
Like, tell us about that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm super grateful for those experiences. I think I grew up in a small town near Calgary, and so it was really important to me to kind of widen and broaden my horizons after university. And so I went and lived overseas. I taught English in Japan. I lived in Australia.
Wow.
I was just saying to my colleague on the walk over here that I did 2 months car camping in New Zealand and did a skateboarding tour
Just
around
did
there.
van life
Yeah,
in Vancouver. It was so
nice.
fun. Me and my best friend went inside a van and we drove up to Tofino. And it's an interesting experience. Like, it's very
Totally.
like simple, and you actually do eat, like, I was looking at the diet that we were having in van life. It's like you have to eat whole foods, like, because you can't really
And you
get
try not to
anything
waste
else.
things, right? Because
Exactly.
you don't have a lot of cold food storage, and B, you're maybe, you know, like keeping your shopping to a minimum. So
Yeah.
you're a lot more resourceful.
Exactly.
I think.
Like, my best friend literally dipped like a whole cucumber in hummus and then like took a chunk out. I was like,
Yes.
this is van life. And I'm like, oh, great.
Totally, I love
But
it.
yeah, it's really fun.
Yeah.
So you were in Australia, Japan, anywhere else?
I did Southeast Asia as well: Thailand, Singapore, Vietnam, Cambodia.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So how are they eating out there compared to here? What's the difference?
Interestingly, for Southeast Asia specifically, a lot of whole foods, other than if you go to 7-Eleven, obviously. Japan, I found, was a lot of fast food, not as much emphasis on whole foods, but I was living there, so I did a lot of cooking at home. But especially when you're, you know, living on a immediately post-university budget, you tend to eat a little more convenience-based. And
Yeah, it's tough.
Totally.
It's tough.
Yeah. No, all a good experience though.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's really good. And so how old were you when you came back and to Vancouver, right?
Oh gosh. Yeah, I was probably Now you're really making me think. I was probably in my early 20s. Yeah, I'm not going to remember actually the specific year, but moved to the West Coast pretty much as soon as I got back from traveling because I knew that I wanted to keep that same kind of lifestyle alive. And the West Coast, I think, really drew me in. Just with the recreation, with the lifestyle, and then career opportunities, I haven't looked back. So
yeah. No, I think I saw something on your blog that was something about waves. What was the?
Yes.
It's like your motto.
Oh, let's make waves.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where did you come up with that? That's awesome. I love that.
Well, I think honestly, and I say this unabashedly, but being in the type of industry that I am in cannabis and being on the front lines of legalization, I think we're creating, we're blazing trails, to use the cliche, but we're creating something brand new. And there's a lot of momentum behind what we're doing in this industry. So I really view it as kind of like that wave or ripple effect that we're carrying the momentum forward and making waves.
Awesome. And where do you see these waves going? Like, where do you see BevCanna and all these infused beverages, and where do you see it all going?
Yeah, I feel really grateful to be in this industry at the stage in my career where I know I'll have, future iterations of what I'm doing in the next, 20 or 30 years. So what I really see is the convergence of natural products industry and the cannabis industry, where products will be understood as health and wellness products with health and wellness benefits. Whether there's a new classification for those types of products, there is a new category that there's a consultation period happening right now for called cannabis health products. So there might be a new way in the future of understanding cannabis in a health and wellness lens, accessing it through different retail and distribution channels, not just regulated retail perhaps. So essentially more options and more accessibility is the future I'm kind of working towards.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And I just, did you want to share anything else with our audience? Just anything more about what you're doing? I saw your blog. It's fantastic.
Thank
the pictures, you're so in tune with what's going on with cannabis, but from a personal level, because you are, how far along? You're pregnant? How far along are you?
I'm halfway actually today, literally on the halfway mark. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, it's really changed my my own consumption of cannabis for sure. So it's been really educational.
Yeah, I saw a post that you said you had made the decision yourself to not smoke cannabis while pregnancy. And how did you come up to that kind of conclusion?
A lot of research. So a lot of the work I do is grounded in science. That's coming from that nutrition background, is really having integrity to what I say and how I approach the conversation. So I did a lot of research, and the biggest thing I found is that there's non-correlative effects of consumption during pregnancy, and the reason is because there's no controlled studies during pregnancy. A lot of the studies are retrospective, looking back at women who consume during pregnancy, and they can't isolate for variables. So there's other socioeconomic factors that could affect the outcomes.
Environment.
Totally. Yeah. Lifestyle. So it's very non-conclusive. So I just made the decision, to err on the side of caution, reduce risk, and to not consume during pregnancy. So I say I'm jokingly on a 9-month tolerance break right now, but no, I know it'll play a role in my life, in life stages to come. So it's a temporary period right now. Yeah.
And just on the topic of your Instagram, where can our viewers get to see your Instagram? Do you have Twitter? What's your website?
Yeah. So emmajaneandrews.com is my website, and then we've been talking about a few of these themes, so the handle on social media won't surprise anyone, but it's Emma Runs Van.
Awesome.
Because I run that city.
Yeah, you do. Awesome. Well, you know what, Emma? It was so great to get to know you more, and thank you so much for coming in today.
Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Hi, it's Grace from the CSC reminding you to make sure to follow us on social media for the latest updates on our listed companies as well as new listing alerts. For more in-depth content, be sure to pick up our free quarterly magazine, Public Entrepreneur, available online at thecsc.com.